This time I'd like to call to order the December 14th Zoning Commission meeting. The records show that Commissioner Barrow is absent. All other commissioners are present. This time I'll entertain a motion to accept the December 14th proposed agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner
Esnard
Kluwat.
is not in here.
Okay. We still got a quorum. Let the record show Commissioner Esnard is not present at this time then. Commissioner Kluwat made the motion to accept, seconded by Commissioner Nance. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 4, acceptance of the minutes of the November 9th, 2011 zoning. Okay. Motion by Commissioner Nance, second by Commissioner Kluwat. Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 5, public comment period. Anyone wishing to address the commission on any item pertaining to the zoning commission, please come up and sign in. You'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to address the commission, the initial public comment period is closed. Item 6, public hearing to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map for recommendation for approval or denial to the Ascension Parish Council. 6A, zoning review ID 2202.11, Lot 2A, being a portion of the Little Prairie subdivision for Larry Couvillon.
Good evening. My name is Agnes Couvillon. This is my husband Larry, and we're here regarding a piece of property we have on the corner of Highway 42 and Little Prairie Road. We came before the board about a year ago trying to add 30 feet to the property to make it more feasible to sell to a prospective buyer. So at that time, the board granted that, and we thank you. We then put it up with a realtor, and they came back telling us that the building could not be sold because the property line went through the right side of the building about 15 feet. So that took away the prospect of selling this property. Now, I'm not sure how and when this line was drawn, but no one could build on the property except 15 feet from the servitude. And I have a couple of drawings that show what it looked like before and what it is now. So now we're back to square one. We have a building we can utilize as it is, and that's it. No other options at this time. So we decided to try to lease the building. And in these economic times, it's very hard to find the right tenant. And we realize we should be discreet when trying to find the right tenant. Well, we thought we had found that person and reached an agreement with them, and we were sitting down and going over the lease, and the gentleman wanted to know, he wants to operate out of the building, his office, but he wanted it for a car sales business. Now, not a large car sale business because the property's not that big, but he was looking to put maybe 8 to 10 cars on the property. Now, this building has a Highway 42 address, and when we called to find out the zoning for the property, it was zoned MU2. It seems a car sales business has to be MU1. Now, this is a mixed corridor. We've got the library, we've got dentist office, we've got veterinary offices, apartments, eating establishments, and 2 closed banks that really don't add to the area for looks or anything else, and for any business. There is a trailer sales place around the intersection on Highway 44 and 42, and the list goes on of all the commercial establishments. Now we have a tax bill on this piece of property, but the parish is preventing us from receiving any income from leasing the property. This could be extra income for our retirement, and it would really help out our family. And give someone else the opportunity to make an income for themselves. And therefore, the reason we're here tonight is to request that the zoning for this piece of property be changed from MU2 to MU1. We believe this type of business will in no way be detrimental to the area or any other business or person living in the area. We think having a business operating on the corner would be far more advantageous for the parish than a building sitting there vacant. We would certainly appreciate your sincere consideration in this matter, and we request tonight, our request is to have the zoning changed on this piece of property from MU2 to MU1, nothing more. We're totally puzzled as to why we should be limited in an area that's so well-traveled. And we have having a business on the property would not affect the area of any of the residents in any adverse way. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dalton?
Ma'am,
Yes.
if I heard you right, you said you couldn't sell it because it was a property line through the building?
Yes.
Do you own both pieces of property?
Both pieces?
Well, if there's a property line through the building, that would imply that
No.
there's two pieces of property.
No, because it's frontage on Highway 42. And that line that drawn through the building is off of Highway 42. It's a
You're talking
corner.
about the building setback line.
Well, there,
That's not the property line, ma'am. But I don't understand why the building setback line, if that
is
goes
going through the building? I
why
don't
that
mean-
would prevent the sale of the property.
Because no other building could be placed on that spot any longer. This is grandfathered in, but anyone that would buy could not build on that same piece where the building is now, at least 15 feet from it.
Yes, ma'am, you're correct, but this does not prevent you from selling the property, is my point.
Well, let's just say it leaves very little property to be
Well,
sold.
agreed, but somebody could use the existing building as is. You can sell it, unless I'm really missing the boat here. I don't know of anything that would prevent you from selling it and someone using it, because as you said, it is grandfathered in.
I've gotten conflicts on that. One person would tell me that, it would have to be moved, and another one saying, well, yeah, they can use it there, but I don't really know.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dumas?
Highway 42 at this particular location was wide not too long, several years ago, was it
A
not?
lot of years ago, yes.
And I'm going to assume that the building pre-existed the widening.
What happened was, there was one big building that had been added on to. We had to, they bought out my husband's business, but what we were left with, they said we can utilize. So we then tore the structures off the side and turned that building around to fit on the piece of property that we had left.
I know, but my
And
point,
we bought the building back from the state at that time.
well, my point is that when the state removed the infamous Y that was at this intersection many years ago,
Yes,
they bought all of this land from those owners, and they compensated those people for for the value of the land. And in your case, what you're telling me is that you chose to buy that building back from the state,
yes. And
which
put it,
which is today, under our code, a non-conforming use, so long as, correct me if I'm wrong, staff, but so long as is there, and you can continue to enjoy that building and use that building as is, and they can come in and
and
get,
that's what I'm trying to do.
well, people can go in and use that building tomorrow. They can go in and get their occupational license. Okay, now, with respect to adding it, if I'm looking at your survey, you've got land behind where you could conceivably do things that are within the setbacks, that you could do things.
True.
So,
True.
I'm at a loss as to how the setback
Go ahead.
causes you any damage.
It's the zoning that does us damage. We can't lease it to certain people.
That's true.
And my point is that the business that wants to lease the property would not adversely affect the area in any way. They have eating established with tons of cars coming in and out all the time. This is a business that would have a few parked cars. They would operate out of the building for their office, and it would not affect the area at all. I mean, as a matter of fact, it probably would help, because now we're not sitting there with an empty building.
But the problem we have to take into consideration is that changing the zoning opens up a whole array of other uses that are far more intense than what's permitted, that would be right next to single-family homes. And
There's one single-family home there on the corner.
And the reason this whole area is got the zoning that it has is because it serves as a transition to all of the residential area that's essentially to the north.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes,
question for you.
yes, sir.
Back in 2009, we had a major revision to our zoning map
Correct, sir.
that the zoning subcommittee and staff was working on those revisions.
Right.
And I realize it was to clean the map up more than anything else, but if I remember correctly, this area was looked at
Very close.
pretty heavily,
Very, right.
and it was determined at that time that the best zoning was MU2. It would be more conducive to better development, and that's why it's MU2. So
The thing
unless
is-
something,
Excuse me.
it's okay, unless something changed, I would still think that's the same thoughts on the part of our zoning official, our staff, and yourself having done that research.
We spent a great deal of time studying this area and researching it to see what should the future of this land should look like, correct? And that's why we picked MU2, because, immediately to the north and to the south, there's a considerable amount of residential, and we needed to make sure that the uses were not too intense. And there's a number of non-conforming uses out here. The trailer sales, of course, is non-conforming, has been non-conforming for many years. They can continue to do it until they shut down, and then they won't be able to do it once they sit for 6 months, I believe.
Yes, 6 months with no power.
No
Mr.
power,
Chairman.
correct, or something to that effect, correct.
Mr. Kluak?
Ms. Coogan,
Yes, sir.
I guess what these gentlemen and all of us are trying to say is, and again, I'm going to say what Chairman Marchand says, that we are strictly recommendation only. What we're saying is, if we change from mixed-use 2 to mixed-use 1, then yes, you can have what you're putting here as your auto sales. But let's just say the auto sales don't make it in 6 to 8 months, then there's a whole lot of other things that can be put on that piece of property once you change it. Then the residents behind it, they may not have an objection to you doing the car sales.
Yes.
But then if the car sales don't make it, and you turn around, and now you can put all other kind of things, you could put a bar with a lounge and everything. Now that resident in the back,
No, we.
I'm just
use our
saying, in other words,
discretion. I
I'm
mean,
just
which is-
trying to say
I understand.
what we're faced with, the code. We're faced with it as to changing it from, making a recommendation from one to the other one.
Well, my question is, why does a car sales go under the MU2? What is it? Which one is it under now?
I'm sorry, Ms. Couvillon, I was not on the board, the commission at that time to do this, but I think the people that did it, more than likely had good research and everything, and they did it, and that's what we have to go by, ma'am. And I can't answer that question.
Well, one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to get some input from Mr. Brock as our zoning official. Staff's recommendation is to deny.
Correct.
And so would you like to,
Sure.
elaborate, and also you could probably answer the question
That
as
Mr.
far as the dealership
Sure.
under, which is actually under MU,
Right.
not MU2.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so if you would, Mr. Brock?
Sure. My recommendation was to deny the request because of the property size. The present zoning designation of MU2, I believe, is correct for the location. And allowing less restrictive uses that would be allowed in the MU designation would not be recommended based on the infrastructure on the petitioned property. And to answer Mr. Kluat's question is that the car dealership, it doesn't really get into size of car dealerships. So if you allow it in MU2, not every MU2 size of the property is this size. It could be larger. At that point, then you have lighting issues, you have other things that you don't want next to those residential uses.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the
Yes.
commission? Mr. Kluat?
Mr. Lant, if that zoning is changed, then there's a lot of other things that can be put there as
Sure.
well. Am I
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, any use that would be permitted would be
In-
allowed
Within that new
in that
zone?
new zoning designation, yes, sir.
So I am very, very limited to what can go there.
You're limited as far as the allowed uses in MU2.
Which makes it very difficult to lease because, in these economic times, I thought we had found somebody that, and of course, they were going to operate under a specific lease, and they weren't going to go beyond the, what was entailed in the lease, So, I mean, we do have, we do feel like we would use good discretion when leasing the property, because I am concerned about anyone living there. But most of it is commercial, most of it. Most of the area, I mean, you got cars zooming in and out of there all the time, with Subway and they've got just a lot of businesses along the way.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sadley?
may I ask a question to staff?
Certainly.
Mr. Brock, Lot 6 and 1A, I assume from the topos you've supplied, are also MU2? That would be the April Dang property and the JGSG properties?
I'm sorry, Mr. Dan, I don't see which lot you're talking about, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm looking at a topo and you have that little green odd-shaped border around, I think, which is the captioned property. At
Yes,
least
sir.
It looks like on the map before it, the actual plat map. And in the plat map, you show Lot 1A and Lot 6. And it looks to me like the color of red is around that entire green partitioned out area on the topo. So when you say it's the correct zoning, everything around it,
Yes.
and actually on all
Yeah,
four sides.
yeah, I see what you're
and
saying, yes,
then
sir, all
you
of it
too.
is mixed use too,
Okay,
yes, sir.
so you didn't use this word, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. Would this be yet another example of spot zoning?
Possible. I mean, it's commercial. The thing is that there are, I guess, this is a more restrictive zoning than the MU would be. Possible. I mean, I don't know if you would, if it would fit that definition per se, but yes.
Because it would be more restrictive,
Yes,
you
sir.
would prefer not to use that
Correct,
term.
yes, sir.
But when you say it's correct zoning, you're basing that on the fact that everything in that area, and it is that way on our map.
Correct, yes, sir. And majority of the uses that Ms. Couvion stated is permitted in that MU2 district. So the subway, the library, those type of things would be permitted there.
Thank you.
It's just that the building doesn't really suit a restaurant or, a eating establishment. It's mostly, a building with office space, actually. And that's what we thought he would be operating, an office out of that building.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? If not, then I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to come up and address the commission, please sign in and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to address the commission. Public comment on this item is closed. Comments or questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I'm going to make a motion to recommend to the parish council to deny this request consistent with staff recommendation on the basis that increasing the intensity of the zoning for this one parcel of land would be inconsistent with the surrounding land use.
I have a motion to recommend denial to the parish council based on staff's recommendation by Julio Dumas, seconded by Bob Nance. Discussion? No discussion, then we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Nance?
Yes.
Mr. Kluwat?
Yes.
Mr. Sadley?
Yes.
Mr. Esnard?
Yes.
Ms. Zarazua Gradine?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, folks, this is just a recommendation that goes to the parish council. They will have the final say on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7, new business. 7A, discuss mixed-use 2 district for lots 2-A, 3-B-1, and 1B of the Autumn View subdivision. Mr. Brock. Mr. Brock requested this be placed
Sure.
on our agenda for some discussion to bring it to the attention of the commission. So it's strictly for discussion only. There's not going to be a vote or anything. So,
Correct.
Mr. Brock?
Thank you. Basically, what happened is that we had someone come in on Lot 3B1 to do an expansion or to get a permit. Basically, what's there is there's a beauty salon there, and he also has a beauty supply business there. At that time, looked at the plans, everything looked okay, and then when I went to the zoning map, I realized that the zoning map shows that it is residential. I feel that it was a mess up on our part whenever we did the map, that it should have been mixed use too. Also, there is a business before it, if you're going north, it used to be Marlin's Pizza. It's a pizza place. I don't think it's being utilized at this time now, but it is a building, a commercial building that's there. Also, the lots that is beside it, that is 1B, felt that to fill in, I guess, the blank, I guess, or to enclose this, I also feel that that lot also should be reflective of MU2. So I'm just bringing it to here to see what the commission wants to do, and then go forward from there.
Mr. Nance?
I was with you for a while, but
Okay.
you lost me on.
It's this area right here.
Yeah,
I know
it-
where it is. I know exactly where it is, but what was it? The 2A and 2B. Now, where was the other lots?
Basically, it's behind it. It's actually the lot that's behind the subway.
This one right here with the woods,
Yeah.
the wooded one.
There's actually an access servitude to get to that lot on the side of Subway.
Really?
And
Lance,
it's lot
which one
1,
is,
It's-
which
it's
one is
landlocked?
this?
1B.
Yeah, it's
1B.
landlocked.
Who owned
The owner of the property is the same person that owns the beauty salon.
2A? Okay. They almost need to combine that.
They're 2 separate tracks, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dumas?
Lance,
The numbers match this more than this.
okay, so you got 2A that we just saw, and right to the north of it is 4A.
Yes,
What's,
sir.
what's the lot right next to it?
So he's talking about.
That's vacant also.
1B. For what I'm seeing, hold on, let me see. My
I
eyes
can't
don't
read the
think right.
number.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Hold on a
hard to
second.
read.
Right across from 5, which is MU2 already.
Yes, that's a vacant lot. That is not a part. No, sir.
Well, I mean,
I understand.
If you're looking for a staff-initiated rezoning, I mean, I would suggest that you go ahead and square off and include that lot so that the line from 5 comes directly across and then wraps around these 3 parcels of land. It would make it for a cleaner and potentially some
Okay.
redevelopment in the future.
Sure.
Right, in other words, bring that line across, up, over, and down.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So
Yeah,
that,
that makes sense.
that rezoning would include those 4 lots.
Well, unless there's any disagreement, Lance, go ahead and get with Ricky. Y'all go ahead and work up a concept, a proposal, and we can take a look at it. I don't know if it's next month or the following month, however, whenever y'all get it ready.
Okay.
I mean, it should, yeah. Yeah,
Or whatever you decide that
Yeah.
happens.
let's do it that way, and that way we be
Vacant lot.
Okay.
a little bit cleaner. Okay. Item 7B, discussion for section 17-29, administration enforcement. I think there was a mix-up between Mr. Brock and myself. This was I requested a report, and Mr. Brock misunderstood and placed this on the agenda for discussion. It was just a copy of a report that I had requested. So there's really no,
Okay, we can get that report next month if you want me to do that.
that's fine.
Yes, sir.
No,
No,
No.
there's discussion on it.
it was, item 8, unfinished business. I don't believe we have any unfinished business. Item 9, zoning subcommittee report. Commissioner Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I said last time that we would meet, there was some back and forth emailings between legal and the chairman concerning the, no pun intended, to get unfinished business, I guess, about the open meetings laws and the potential to be violating the same with varying numbers of people attending our 2 subcommittee meetings. And so, you know, using Ms. Manda's words, in order to err out of an abundance of caution, I thought it best we cancel that meeting. We did so, and so that, Mr. Chairman, there's really nothing to report. I'm still waiting to hear, I guess, what the AG's final opinion of all that's going to be.
All right, item 10, I'll entertain a motion to
Move.
adjourn. Motion by Bob Nance, second by Milton Cluott to adjourn. Any opposition, discussion? None. We are
Merry
adjourned.
Christmas to all.